Fellow Falcoholics, what is up? Welcome to the Falcoholic Live's Falcons at Saints post-game special. And we can be happy for the first time since week 2 with a victory, a hard-fought victory against a hated rival in the New Orleans Saints. The Falcons pulled off the upset. I believe they were, 14-point underdogs according to the line going into this game, something like that.
13 and a half.
Yeah, 13 and a half. So definitely one of the biggest upsets the Falcons have pulled off in recent memory. And it was just a great game all around. I mean, the team played well on both sides of the ball. We had some great plays. They almost doubled their season sack total in one game. Just a lot happened. Before we get into that, do want to welcome my co-host for this show, Mr. Adnan Ikic at Say Which Way on Twitter. Adnan, how are you feeling today?
Oh, I'm feeling better than I have all season.
Yeah.
Because I don't care about draft position. When it comes to the Saints, I don't. Every other game we can lose, we can tank. I'm here for it. I will never advocate losing to the Saints. And I think I was one of 3 idiots on our staff to pick the Falcons this week.
Good job.
It was me, James, who has picked the Falcons every week, and Dave Choate. The only ones who picked the Falcons to win this week. And we obviously did it with our hearts, not our head. And, oh my goodness, what a win.
It was the right call, though.
Oh my goodness, 6 sacks on Drew Brees. He didn't, just like old times, didn't score any touchdown against us. The Falcons moved to 5 games above 500 against the Saints in the all-time history, and that's all I have to hold on to right now until the Saints inevitably choke it away in January. And, I mean, do it again on Thanksgiving, and they can't say shit. Yeah. Like, if we're 3-13, they cannot say shit for a full year because 2 of those wins will be against them. All I care about now is winning on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. That's the goal. That's the goal.
Do that, and you can lose the rest of these games. I don't care. I really don't. But I'm going to hold on to this for a while because we just won in New Orleans, and we are screwing up their standings. We're screwing up their potential playoff run. And we were talking about it before the show. How great would it be if we beat them on Thanksgiving and we're the reason that they have to go travel to Green Bay in January in the divisional round of the playoffs?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, it's crazy. Like, everything that we've criticized them for on defense in particular. I mean, the offense was fine. They had some of their, they were up to some of their old tricks, but ultimately the offense played well, especially the run game. But on defense, it was like every criticism that we levied at them, like they can't rush the passer, they're bad in coverage. Like why are we only putting 3 rushers out there because they can't cover anyone? Like the switch flipped completely. Like they were covering great when they were dropping 8 guys. Like they were getting pressure with 3, they were getting pressure with 4. Like the coverage, I mean, Oliver was getting worked over by Michael Thomas, but that's not entirely unexpected. I mean, as much as we malign Michael Thomas on here, he's still like in that top, tier of wide receivers. And
by the way, I am so glad that he could not stat pad on that last play.
They were trying.
Oh my God, they were obviously trying to force it into him just to stat pad that touchdown into it, and it's just a justice that his stupid ass fell at the 1-yard line.
Yep. So take that, Michael Thomas. Get your ass out of our end zone. So. I mean, they pulled it off. I mean, it was downright miraculous. And you have to attribute some of this to, and like I criticized Quinn like before the game for giving up his play calling because that in some cases it's like, well, if you're our defensive head coach and you're admitting that you can't call the plays, I mean that is an indictment in some ways. But it's also there's something to be said for knowing when what you're doing isn't working. Like what you're doing is hurting the team, and to be able to have the like confidence in yourself and do the right thing and step down from play calling, I think does show that he's at least willing to learn from his mistakes. So
and Dan Quinn has always, like, for all of his shortcomings, Dan Quinn has, in fairness, recognized them. Like he brought in Sutton to help him with play management this year. He's recognizing that his play calling was absolutely atrocious. I'm trying not to curse right now, but his play calling was just absolutely grotesque. So He gives Jeff Ulbrich, who's a young coordinator, the opportunity. Jeff Ulbrich, he has a future in the NFL,
Yeah,
man. He
I
is
think so.
going to be, if this defense can play. Obviously, we're not expecting what we saw today. That was just insane.
Yeah.
That's the peak of the season. But if this defense can be serviceable for the rest of the season, after what we saw in the first half of the year, he will get a defensive coordinator shot somewhere,
Yeah.
and possibly even in Atlanta, depending on who we bring in as the offensive coordinator. Ulbrich, he has a future in the NFL. I can see him as a head coach in the NFL one day.
Yeah, he's definitely been one of the coaches that it seems like the players really like. And, the Falcons have had pretty solid linebacker play while he's been here. That was one of the guys I thought might get a shot to be the defensive coordinator. If Quinn was let go, it seems like, they were going to go ahead and give him that opportunity. And yeah, I mean, the game plan was great. The Falcons have had a good run defense all year. That's never, I mean, in terms of yardage allowed, not so much, but in terms of yards per play, which is a much, better stat, because if you're behind in every game, you're going to get run on a lot. Like, the Falcons have only been allowing 3.7 yards per carry throughout the whole season. I mean, that's a top 6 number. So the run defense has been fine, but run defense doesn't matter if you can't stop the passing game. So, and they managed to do that today. They did give up some plays, but they were able to make enough plays, particularly with the pass rush, getting all those sacks. And on third down, like, they were the NFL's worst third down defense, and it wasn't close. And I mean, they held the Saints to what, 3 of 7 or 3 of 9 or something like that on third down. I mean, it's pretty incredible turnaround. And you obviously we give Ulbrich some credit for taking over the play calling, but I wonder how much the change of Raheem Morris back to his old position as a secondary coach, how much of a difference that made. Do you think that was partially responsible for the improvement we saw in the secondary today?
I definitely think everything played a part into it. Everything was a factor, and Raheem Morris, obviously, he defensive backs. Did I freeze?
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Okay, thank God.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, that nightmare again. But yeah, no. The secondary is where he cut his teeth. That's his bread and butter. People forget Raheem Morris was a head coach at one point, and albeit not a very good one, but still, to make it to that level, you have to know your craft, at least like in your positions coaching. So I mean, I think that was like, that had some to do with it. It was definitely positive. It didn't hurt at all. Kendall Sheffield played well. Isaiah Oliver got bullied by Thomas in the beginning, but they made some adjustments. And how about some adjustments made by the defense in this game throughout the game? That was great to see, because the Saints, they should have scored a touchdown on that first drive. They just took it downfield, and we got lucky that Alvin Kamara slipped on that 3rd and goal, which led to that Devondre Campbell sack. I'm not gonna ever apologize for getting some luck actually going our way, but I think what really helped, this pass rush got home. Like, they were pressuring Breeze all game, and I get it. Andrews Pete was like, he got injured, he was out. But even when they were rushing 3, they were getting pressure. And for the record, I still hate rushing 3. I hate the entire concept of it.
Yes.
But it worked out, because Grady Jarrett was an absolute wrecking ball. Takk McKinley got some pressure in there. Sure, he didn't have a sack, but he had that big holding penalty forced on Teron Armstead on that Alvin Kamara screen pass, which went for a first down late in the game. I mean, kudos to the pass rush. It looked just like it did against the Eagles in week 2. And the Atlanta Falcons in this game completely imposed their will on the Saints in every facet of the game. And this is the first time I've seen that happen with the Falcons in I don't even know how long. The offensive line got a push. The defensive line kept getting pressure on Breeze throughout the entire afternoon. We shut down their run game. And what the offensive line, kudos to the offensive line, because they opened up the lanes for the run game. The run game got it going for the first time this season, it seems like. That set up some play actions that kept Matt Ryan, clean in the pocket. And Matt Ryan, never say that Matt Ryan doesn't have heart, because he's playing on that bum ankle. He got 2 absolutely crucial first downs on 3rd down. And I mean, just I can't say enough about this win. I will be hanging on to this win throughout the entire off season when that time comes.
Yeah. And, the other side of the coin, the Falcons put up 6 sacks, which obviously is incredible. They only had 7 going into this game in 8 games. So that's obviously a big deal. But you flip the coin, the Falcons only allowed 1 sack against the Saints, who were averaging over 3 per game. They had 24 going into this game. That I thought was going to be the biggest deal for Atlanta, was to keep, if we can keep Matt Ryan clean and keep this game manageable, then it could work out, and it did. I mean, they managed to keep Ryan pretty clean. I mean, he didn't have a ton of time, but it was enough time, and it seems like having Jamon Brown and James Carpenter back in the starting lineup, both of them not having Wes Schweitzer have to start, made a big difference against the Saints, and that was, I think, a big takeaway from this game, was that if this offensive line can be what we spent all this money to make it, which is like above average, that is a key to this team. I mean, I think we saw today, this is the team that the Falcons should have been this year. And they're in there somewhere. Like, they're in there. They just haven't been there consistently.
And the Saints absolutely shot themselves in the foot throughout this entire game. They had 11 penalties, 4 hands to the face. They kept extending Falcon drives. They had that absolutely atrocious roughing the kicker penalty, which led to the Younghoe Koo season high or career high 48-yard field goal. And Younghoe Koo, we'll get to him in a minute too, because he showed out. But the thing is, you did not get in their way of them making mistakes, and you took advantage of it. You capitalized on their mistakes one after the other, and that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to punish your opponent for making mistakes.
Yeah.
And the Saints, every single one of those penalties was justified.
Yeah.
You look at the replays, I'm sure their fan base will start crying about how they were overflagged, the refs weren't fair. Every one of those penalties was justified because they were absolute idiots out there. All of those hands to the faces were absolutely justified. You saw replay after replay. That false start, I know that entire dome started booing after they didn't call the neutral zone infraction on the 4th and 3.
Yeah.
But we didn't jump into the neutral zone. The tripping, fantastic call. The refs, I mean, absolute kudos to the refs for catching all of that. They had a hell of a game. And in the Louisiana Superdome, too, that's a lot of pressure to make calls against the Saints, as we've seen in years past.
Yeah.
But, I mean, great job. Hats off to the refs, and hats off to the Falcons for capitalizing on those mistakes. And I am so glad that those people in New Orleans who spent their money to come and who thought that they would come in and trash the Falcons in this game, that they're going home sad.
Yeah.
Because that's the best part about all of this.
Oh, yeah. It's great. I mean, you could tell they were totally shocked, and it's like, something that I think is interesting is if you look at how the fans feel going into a game, you can kind of get an idea about maybe how the team feels going into games, because in a way they are connected. Obviously they're not the same, but the fans were very confident and cocky going into this game, and I think logic can tell us that's probably how the Saints also felt going into this game. I mean, they were 7-1 going up against a Falcons team who can't stop anyone on defense and is in the midst of a 6-game losing streak. Meanwhile, they're on their own 6-game winning streak. Like, everything was setting up. I mean, this is a classic trap game, right? I mean, if you believe in trap games.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a rivalry game, so the records always go completely out of the window in these types of games. Remember 2012 when the Falcons were 8-0 facing the 3-5 New Orleans Saints. We go down to New Orleans and they break our undefeated streak, and then the next day the 1972 Miami Dolphins are popping champagne. Absolutely, which is why I thought I'm not a betting man, I'm not a gambling man.
Yeah, me neither.
But I would have absolutely taken the Falcons at minus 13.5 in this game.
Oh yeah,
because it's a rivalry game, and if you know anything about the Falcons versus Saints history, these games are always close.
Always, yep.
No matter what the records are. 95% of them since Matt Ryan and Drew Brees have been at it have been absolutely like 1-score games.
Yeah,
it's been insane, and I'm expecting not. Oh, heck, actually, this wasn't a 1-score game. I'm sorry. My apologies for that, because we just whooped their ass and we beat them by, what was it, 17 points?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
Bring it on Thanksgiving again. Because
Bring
I
it.
can't fucking wait.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Like, they were probably overconfident and they were probably, expecting an easy win, and that comes back to bite you in the NFL because the truth is there are no easy wins. I guess unless you play the Bengals, where the Ravens were just toying with them today, which was kind of funny to watch. But
Yeah, the Bengals are special.
yeah, they're special. We thought the Dolphins were going to be the ones tanking, but unfortunately for the Dolphins, they didn't realize that the Bengals were going even harder than them. They benched
But
Andy
they'll still
Dalton,
get Tua, probably.
They probably still will because the Bengals are going to take Joe Burrow, which
I feel bad for Joe Burrow. Man.
it's going to be the new Andy Dalton,
Yeah, I mean, if I'm Joe Burrow, I'm being very careful the rest of the season, or he may wind up in Cincinnati with that ownership.
Yep, yeah, it's a scary thought for all of us, but yeah, it's obviously just beating the Saints in general is a lot of fun, no matter what the season. But this year is special because they had been doing so well, and this loss, I mean, this could be the difference between first round bye or home field advantage, like period. Like the margin is razor thin in the NFC because the 49ers are undefeated, and logic dictates they're probably going to lose a couple games by the end of the year. But the Saints, after this game, the Saints look totally mortal. Like they don't look like a team to be feared because the Falcons came into their house and held them to 9 points. And it's not like the Falcons had an offensive explosion, but I mean Matt Ryan had less than 200 yards. But this.
But the offense, I have to give it. And I'm sorry for cutting you
off.
Oh
no, it's cool. It's cool.
But
yeah.
I absolutely have to take my hat off to Dirk Cutter and the offense because the game plan that they had was absolutely brilliant, and that's the game plan that you make if you're on the road as a 13.5-point underdog, where you have to control the time of possession, give your defense a chance to rest. And the Saints had the ball 4 times in the first half, and 2 of those times they didn't even get past midfield.
Yeah.
The defense absolutely also showed out. The defense absolutely, I think, fed off of the offense. And it was just so demoralizing for that Saints defense. You can tell by their body language. All of those 3rd and longs that the Falcons were converting, 3rd and 8, pass completed to Austin Hooper, 3rd and 7, pass completed to Calvin Ridley, who gets both feet down.
Yep.
Julio Jones had that 53-yard catch with that brilliant block from Calvin Ridley on it, who just backed into his defender. Just a complete team performance, and that was a textbook example of the offense and the defense feeding off of one another, because in every other game this season, when the Saints got the ball at the 38-yard line, we're thinking, all right, that's going to be 7.
Right.
It's 7 points. But this defense stepped up, forcing a sack on Drew Brees, and they hold him to a field goal, and they held him to 3 field goals and 6 sacks. And oh my goodness, the Saints had more 4-and-outs than they had touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, it was crazy because, like you said, they had the ball in favorable position on many drives. I mean, they had a couple of really good returns that put them up at midfield or even past that. I know at one point they got the ball at the Falcons 38 and they just could not convert any of these into touchdowns. They were able to get those field goals, but that was it. I mean, 9 points. And, let's be honest, the Saints aren't the offensive juggernaut like we're used to seeing. They're about average, this year in terms of offense. And they've been winning with that combination of, average offense and above average, top 10 defense. The Falcons just kind of beat them at their own game with this game plan. The Falcons were the ones that were able to kind of establish the run early, get up to an early lead, and then control everything. And, the Saints were the ones that were playing more like the Falcons, where they couldn't get off the field on 3rd down, and they were having to throw, 45 passes. That was 45 attempts for Brees in this game, to try to catch up. And, that's the thing. The Saints were fairly successful on the ground, but they only ran it 11 times. They averaged, I think, 4.7 yards per carry, but they only had 50 rushing yards total. I mean, the game went exactly as the Falcons were hoping, and credit to them for coming up with a game plan that really isn't their style in most games, and then executing that game plan better than they've executed any other game plan at any point this season, and doing it at the perfect time, because going and putting it on your rival in their house to potentially cost them a high seed, I mean, it's like poetry.
Oh, and also the New Orleans Saints are absolutely a different team on the road as opposed to at home,
Yeah.
especially come January in those cold weather games. So now they're 2 games back with the San Francisco 49ers for the 1 seed. Now the Green Bay Packers have a chance to take over the 2 seed. And the New Orleans Saints, they still have a very heavy division schedule coming up. And as they learned today, no matter who you're facing in your division, it's you always have to be alert. They obviously weren't today. They obviously took the Falcons for granted,
Mhm.
and they paid for it. And I mean, they have nobody but themselves to blame. I just wanted to get one more win on Thanksgiving
Yep. Just
because
that other win to complete the sweep. It makes it
yeah,
all worthwhile.
yeah, and I mean, I don't care what the circumstances are, no matter what, I will never ever root for the Falcons to lose to the New Orleans Saints. Draft pick be damned. I don't care if we fall from the 5th pick to the 14th pick if we win on Thanksgiving Day.
Yeah.
And I was kind of getting worried, looking at the all-time head-to-head series because it matters. This was the 100th meeting between the two teams.
Hmm.
Um, had the New Orleans Saints swept this season, they could have potentially tied it up next year. Now the Falcons are in a position to possibly go 6 games better than the Saints in the all-time head-to-head series.
Yeah.
And I mean that's no matter what people say, that's still something that's always looked at, especially when it comes to rivalries. When
Yeah.
rivalries this heated. Yeah, just overall a great win. Lattimore did go out. Lattimore was having a good game, other than holding Julio Jones in the end zone. And I'm so glad that was finally called because he's
Yes.
been
It's
doing
been
that for
taken
years.
taken years, but finally.
Yeah, but I mean, better late than never, I guess. But you have to look at it too. Desmond Trufant was also out, who's our #1 cornerback. And
Right.
he'll
Right.
hopefully be back for Thanksgiving. Hopefully Austin Hooper will be better. Um, Hopefully he's not hurt. Brandon Allen. We did not come out of this game unscathed. Devontae Freeman, he just always gets hurt. Devontae Freeman gets hurt rolling out of bed at this point.
It's sad, and it's sad to see
Yeah,
because
it's sad, but he's still making his millions. Brian Hill was fantastic in this game, and I'm
yeah.
completely fine with handing the keys to Brian Hill for the rest of the season.
Mhm. Yeah.
Ito Smith, I don't know what's going. Ito Smith has those concussions, that neck injury. I hope I wouldn't be mad if Ito Smith stepped away from the game, but who knows what'll happen there.
Yeah.
The Falcons will have to reevaluate the running back position this coming off season because I don't think Devontae Freeman. I don't think he should be back with the team next year, which is why it's still so baffling that we didn't trade him when we had the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, we understand that it was basically because Quinn thought that was their best chance for winning games with Freeman, and his pass blocking apparently was a part of it. But Brian Hill looks like he's obviously not quite as dynamic in terms of his cutting ability, but he's more physical. It's obvious, and he does seem to have that long speed that Freeman never really had. He'll look like a good receiver today. He did catch that pass for a touchdown. That's kind of been his one play as a receiver. He's made that catch a bunch of times, but it's good. He was good. I mean, the yards per carry wasn't really there, but it didn't matter because the Falcons especially towards the end of the game. I mean, they were just trying to chew clock. Early in the game, when it did matter, was when Hill was rattling off those long runs, and I mean, it was key in establishing the lead. And the running game did look better, and you have to give credit to Hill for stepping up when he was called upon, and also to Jamon Brown and James Carpenter, who were finally healthy, it seems, in this game, and they did improve the offensive line, I think. And I guess we're all hoping that we'll see Chris Lindstrom again at some point.
No, I think we will. He was practicing this week. He's eligible to come back from IR next week.
Mm-hmm.
And Lindstrom, he's someone that really needs game reps.
Yeah.
For the rest of the season. He's a rookie. This isn't oh yeah, you have a veteran player. There's nothing really to play for, so you can just take him, give him as much time as possible. Lindstrom, absolutely give him as much time as he needs, but nothing will serve him better than getting actual game reps.
Yeah.
And I mean, next year I think we could possibly have a nice little running back by committee. I think we have to go into the draft looking for a running back, unfortunately, again.
Yeah,
And
probably.
Brian Hill, you have Quadrialis, and you can have a nice little running back by committee going into next season.
Yeah, and my mock that I did on Saturday, I had them taking a running back with that third round pick because one of those, it wasn't the top tier guys of like Travis Etienne and DeAndre Swift and Jonathan Taylor, but there is another sect of guys, like another mini tier of like J.K. Dobbins and Chuba Hubbard that I think are very good starters as well. They might not be the elite starters that those top three guys are, but Chuba Hubbard was still there at the top of the third, and I think that is a good potential fit for this team. But we'll see where they go. There are a lot of running back talent in this year's class, that's for sure. Another offensive lineman to highlight, I think Caleb McGarry had maybe his best game going up against Cameron Jordan, who's given this team fits basically every time they've played. And he has, continued to improve. He's a rookie starting at tackle. It's always going to be a difficult proposition, but, he definitely earned his paycheck today, I'll say. I mean, it was a good game from him. So if we can get Lindstrom back as well and have the two of those two playing together to close out the season and looking good, that is a big piece of what this team needs going forward to be competitive. Is if this offensive line can really become above average to good, to one of those better units in the league. That's what we need.
And Cam Jordan was talking a lot of shit about our draft picks. Draft night. So he had more hands to the face penalties than he had sacks in this game.
He had 0 sacks. So.
No, exactly. And he had a hands to the face.
Yeah, the only sack they got was on a blitz by Demario Davis where James Carpenter just did not. It was a little bit delayed and Carpenter just did not see him in time. But so kudos to Davis for sneaking that one in. But otherwise, but yeah, I mean, the draft pick, yes, this could affect the draft order this week, but let's be honestly, folks, if you get 2 wins and you're not in the top 3, this is a really bad season. I think 2 wins will generally get you a top 3 pick almost every season, and if they win
3 wins,
yes, exactly. If they get that 3rd win against the Saints, they're probably guaranteed a top 5 pick unless there's a bunch of other teams that are bad. The Jets won today. I believe the Bucks won, so they're at 3 wins now. Teams are going to win more games. Yeah, the Dolphins could win. It's wide open there. So there are going to be teams there aren't going to be 4 teams that finish with 1 win. That's just not going to happen. The Bengals may lose out. They're that bad. But in terms of these other teams,
quarterback, they're not a threat for Chase Young. Well, the Bengals could be dumb enough to not get a quarterback.
They trust Ryan Finley. He's the future. Yeah, but it's I'm hoping that this. It's not. I don't think it's going to cost them a major draft pick. I think they were probably always going to finish right around that 5th pick somewhere in there. And if they really want Chase Young, they're probably going to have to trade up a couple spots. That's just what we're looking at realistically. But to get up 2 spots to pick 3, that might only take a 2nd round pick. Just a pick swap type scenario. So
and of course Chase Young is the prize, but someone like a Derek Brown would not be a very shabby consolation prize.
No, there are good players
him next to Grady Jarrett in the middle.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good edge players in that 2nd round range that you can choose from. There will be some options there if they have to wait on an edge a little bit, but they shouldn't wait too long. No wait until the 4th round. Okay, let's not do that again. But yeah, it's exciting stuff. It's nice to finally get back in the win column too. So
yeah, it is, and we're celebrating and stuff, but I don't think that Dan Quinn can do anything to save his job this season at this point. Not unless some miracle happens where the Falcons somehow win out or something.
Yeah, if they're winning out and it's oh, they have a chance to make the playoffs, I guess if they look like this every week and go into the end of the season on a what?
Make Jeff Goldberg
8 game winning streak. I mean, I guess at that point there's not really, I think at that point you're okay, it's a winning season. We can't fire Quinn for this miraculous comeback. But I think that the chances of that happening are basically 0. What's more likely is this was a heroic effort against a rival, and that they probably go back to playing, hopefully not as bad as they've been, but probably not going to be this good every week going forward. I hope so. That would be cool, but I would love to see them play better, what would be great is if they play really, really competitively and play good games and just end up losing for the draft pick. That would be ideal. But yeah, we've got a lot of games left. And
yeah, it's the season will be a lot more a lot more easier to bear with more weeks like this. I'm not saying win, but to just look competitive. What win on Thanksgiving, but the rest I'm completely fine with 3-13. We still have a prize to look out for at the end of the season with that draft pick.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're in that top 10 range, there's a lot of players you could potentially be picking from that are worthwhile. So don't get too obsessed with like how they shuffle in the draft order every week. It's gonna be where they end up at the end of the season. Like if they start rattling off wins now, I mean, you could probably kiss that top 5 pick away. But what they went 6-10 in 2014, and that was
2014 was 6-10.
That was
the year
8,
where,
I think. Yeah, they picked 8 that year, I think.
Yeah, and they got that was the Vic Beasley year. The year before was when they were 4-12 and they picked 6, and that was Jake Matthews.
Yeah, and their strength of schedule does them no favors because they play a very hard schedule. So they will probably lose tiebreakers with just about anyone else because of that strength of schedule. So it's rough. It's a rough out there for this Falcons team, but it's great to get a win against a big rival and to go into next week, on a positive note for the first time since week 2. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about writing about a win. God, it's starting to get really depressing at the site. Like it was getting like, you were writing, layers of hell that the Falcons are going through, and this is where we've gone. So we've got, a little bit of an upswing would be nice, at this point in the season. So
it would, and I think it kind of started with the Seahawks performance. They had a good second half performance in that game, and that resulted in some more confidence. And I mean, also great job by Younghoe Koo. Sure, he didn't have to go out there and kick any 50-plus yarders, but 4 for 4 on field goals, perfect on his 2 extra points. I mean, he went out there and did everything that was asked of him. So, great job by him, and he has a job for the rest of the season. It's one of 32 jobs in the world.
Yeah.
So, he's a local product, came out of Georgia Southern, so that's always nice to see. But that 48-yarder,
he just barely squeaked that one in. I think his weakness is the long kicks. But if he can be 100% accurate, like under 50, I mean, that's no small task either. Especially you look at the kicking around the league. Guys are missing I think there were 5 missed PATs today in the early games. So I mean, like, just nailing those short kicks is a skill unto itself. Now, if you're not exactly trustworthy over 50, that's a weakness. But like, that's maybe one that a lot of teams can tolerate in this climate. So it'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, he can be a little bit more trustworthy with that. That 48-yarder next time, because maybe sweat a little bit there on that one, but
and let's be honest, when Matt Ryan threw that pick, it was kind of like, oh my goodness, like it's not going to happen. Like, is it?
It's not going to. No, it didn't. And then they went 4 and out. Yeah, that was crazy. So
yeah, but it feels like Matt Ryan just threw that up there, and he's like, all right, let me give the defense another chance to just like continue dominating this game.
Yeah, no, it was like I guess it was my thought was like Ryan Allen couldn't really punt because of his injury, so he was like, all right, this is either going to be a touchdown or an interception, and it's going to serve as our punt. So let's go.
Yeah, and I appreciate going for the kill shot right there.
Yeah.
Going deep. Calvin Ridley had one-on-one coverage. It was just a great play made by Marcus Williams, and drops the Saints to 7-2, drops them possibly to the 3 seed, and that this team is not going to make it to the Super Bowl if they have to play 2 games on the road.
Yeah.
They won't make it to the NFC Championship game if they have to go to Green Bay and face that Packers team.
Yeah.
And they definitely aren't winning in San Francisco the way that they're constructed right now.
Yeah. No, I mean, that San Francisco's defense took a little bit of a step back without Quan Alexander, who was like kind of a linchpin for them. So we'll see if they can get that defense back up to speed. They were struggling against Arizona a bit with Alexander out. But, I think that the 49ers are the NFL's best team this year. And they don't necessarily need the defense to be elite. It has been elite, but Kyle Shanahan's offense has been, elite as well. So stick it to them, 49ers. Stick it to them. All right, any final takes from you, Adnan, before we wrap it up here?
I think we said all that's needed to be said. Just do it again on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, just do it again on Thanksgiving, and all is forgiven. Maybe like, the Falcons sweep the Saints, like, saves Dan Quinn's job or something. That's all the fans care about right now. It's not going to happen.
I mean, that's what we care about, but that's not saving. Yeah. 3-13 isn't saving his job.
No, 3-13 not enough. So, but we do appreciate all you guys tuning in and enjoying this win with us. We appreciate all the salty Saints fans in the chat. I think there's like 4 of them. So it looks like you guys have them well under control. So good for you, chat. But also the 49ers fans that came in to thank us for beating the Saints. So you're welcome. You're welcome. Tell Kyle, to make sure he runs it when you're in the Super Bowl. So that's a message from us. But we appreciate you guys tuning in. If you haven't already, throw the show a like. That does help this get seen by people who haven't seen the show yet. And if you're not already subscribed, that's a good way to keep up with when we do our other shows, which are usually Wednesday nights at 8:10 p.m. Eastern. Don't ask about the time, okay? It's like a bit. But, it's Wednesday night. We'll be back this Wednesday to recap the game in a little more detail, give you some more of like an in-depth breakdown, and hopefully give you some positive injury updates from the guys that went down today. And looking forward to next game against. It's another division game. The Panthers? I can't remember.
Yeah,
I think it's the Panthers next week. I can't remember.
I
should know. I really should know.
It doesn't matter. It's in Carolina. Then we get the Bucs at home.
Yeah.
It's just because all of these division games are now just coming literally one after the other every single week.
Yep.
You just don't even know who's who at this point.
Yeah.
But it's at Carolina versus Tampa, and then that Thanksgiving night game rematch.
Yeah. What would be really funny is if the Falcons win out, run roughshod through the division, go 6-0 in divisional play, and then like win a tiebreaker with the Saints at 9-7 to get that playoff spot. That would be hilarious.
Oh my goodness! I wouldn't even care what happens in the playoffs at that point.
That would be so funny. It would just be perfect. Just like win out, go 6-0 in the division, and then just take the Saints, win the division outright like that, and that would be funny. But I would say the chances of that happening are approximately 5%. And that might be generous.
That high?
That might be generous. I think they still do have like a 5% chance after winning this game. So, it's not 0% chance. You're telling me there's a chance, and there is slightly. So, but yeah, guys, we do appreciate you. Before we get out of here, I want to thank my co-host, Mr. Adnan Ikic. He's on Twitter at SayWhичWay. Adnan, anything you're working on that you'd like to plug?
Falcons Fantasy Stud and Dud. That's coming out every week. I do a What If the Falcons Win or Lose column that goes live on Saturdays. So check those out. And, have a great rest of your afternoon, Saints fans and Falcons fans. Go out there and enjoy this out.
Yep, enjoy it. Enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. Certainly enjoy a week where we actually won and people aren't like talking mad trash about this team. Like, oh, look at this Falcons team. They're so bad. So you get that, instead this is going to be blasted all over SportsCenter. And the Saints fans are going to have to watch all their favorite shows and everything where they talk about, arguably definitely the biggest upset of the week, at least in terms of betting lines. I mean, maybe one of the biggest of the season. So that's cool. And you guys know me. I'm Kevin Knight, Falcoholic Kevin, on Twitter. Like I said, I dropped my first mock draft that went out on Saturday. So if you haven't checked that out yet, give that a look-see, and hopefully you'll enjoy it. But you'll probably hate it because it seems like everyone hates mock drafts at this time of year. I don't blame you. No one's getting any picks right, in November before the players have even formally declared. So, all right. It was fun. We'll see you guys again on Wednesday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your football Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your week. And, we will talk to you guys then. Have a great night. And, that's all I got. See ya.
Good night, guys.